Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Inger. Hello, it is nice to meet you. Why do I feel like I said that in a very robotic voice? Hello, it is nice to meet you. We're talking today about the books that I've read in February. Does anybody ever really know how to say February? I read 3 books this month, so I did better than I did in January, which is great. And I really enjoyed all of the books that I read, so I'm very happy about that. Starting off the month, I read The London Scene by Virginia Woolf, which is entitled or subtitled 6 Essays on London Life. So basically Virginia Woolf was asked to write 6 essays, or 6 articles rather, for a magazine in the 1930s about London life, and then several years later her essays were discovered again and somebody put them all together and put them in a book and published it so that we could all read them from the comfort of our own homes without having to have been in the 1930s to read these magazines. I really enjoyed these essays. I found them very fun to read, very insightful, very intriguing, and quite easy to follow as well, because I've read Mrs. Dalloway, and let me tell you, Mrs. Dalloway is a little bit confusing at times, but these essays were not so. If you are looking for a way to get into Virginia Woolf's books, I would suggest this collection of essays, because, as I said, they're much easier to follow than her fictional works, and I think because it's so short, it's also easier to get through, because you can read an essay a day and in 6 days' time you will have read something by Virginia Woolf, and then you can impress all your friends by saying, I've read something by Virginia Woolf. Now, moving on to the next book I read. I don't have it at the moment because I have loaned it to somebody, but I will put a picture of it on the screen here. It is I, Mona Lisa by Natasha Solomons, which is basically a fictional biography of the painting Mona Lisa, which sounds very confusing, but it is a fictional biography of the painting itself, so you hear the story out of the perspective of the painting. So Mona Lisa, the painting, is the narrator of this story. I don't know if all of the historical events that take place in this book are accurate, because they took place more than 500 years ago. No, probably not more than 500, but almost 500 years ago, so I think it's a little bit difficult to get things historically accurate without having been there. But I did find it a very compelling story and very interesting way of telling a biography of an object, and also in turn of a person, because Mona Lisa was painted from an actual person who existed, and also then you get snippets of you get more snippets of the life of Lisa, who Mona Lisa's painting was based off of, but then you also get a lot of insight into the life of Leonardo da Vinci, who painted the Mona Lisa. And all in all, it was a very fun story to read. It's my favorite book that I've read so far this year, and while I was reading it, all of the images kept floating through my brain like I was watching a movie, and I think that's a tell of a good book, because that doesn't always happen when you're reading a book. If you're looking for a book to read, pick up I, Mona Lisa. I'm pretty sure you won't be disappointed. Then, the last book I have read this month is, I actually just finished it today, The Truants by Kate Weinberg. Now, there's a hearse on the back of this cover. On the back, I say, on the cover of this book. And when I first looked at the cover, I thought, that looks very intriguing. They have a funeral car on the front of a book in the middle of a forest of trees. But it is very appropriate to the story, both because one of the characters drives a hearse, but also because there are some tragedies that happen in this book. I don't want to spoil anything, but it was very intriguing. So this book centers around Jess Walker. She goes to this specific university because she read a book by one of the professors called The Truants, and became obsessed with this professor and now wanted to go to this university where the professor teaches. She gets there, she meets a group of friends. They're a group of 4 friends who start doing everything together, and they become very close, and they become very close with the professor as well. But then things start to go wrong. They start to go awry, as things often do in these mystery books. And the friendships disintegrate, tragedy strikes, people disappear. Really interesting book. I feel like I'm not doing a great job of describing it to you, but it's because everything that happened in this book is so fresh in my mind. And I feel like if I tell you anything about the book, I'm going to spoil the whole thing. So I would rather say very little about it than tell you too much and then spoil the story. And then, you know, you kind of feel like, what's the point in reading it? Even though I feel like even if I did tell you what happened in the story, you would still find it interesting if you read it, because there are very many different storylines and plots happening in this book all at the same time, and it's very twisty and turny, and it's just great. I really enjoyed this book. There were some things that I felt were missing. It lacked a few things in my opinion, but I still really did enjoy this book throughout, so I'm not going to harp on about the things that I felt could have been done differently, because I still gave it a 4-star review, so I still really enjoyed it, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I haven't been this enraptured and enthralled by a book for a really long time. Even though I, Mona Lisa is my favorite book that I've read so far this year, I wasn't just frothing at the mouth to get back to reading it whenever I had the chance. And with this book I did, because I wanted to know what was going to happen next. And even if the ending was slightly disappointing, it also makes sense, and I'm not disappointed that I've read this book, definitely not. So here are the 2 books. I mean the 2 books that I have the copies of, but the 2 of the 3 books I read this month. I really enjoyed the books that I read this month. If you are looking for any books to read, you could pick up any of the 3 that I've talked about in this video, and I'm sure you will have a great time reading the books. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, you can give it a thumbs up. It really helps my channel out, it really supports me. If you'd like to stick around and see more bookish content from me, more reading reviews, more wrap-ups, more book recommendations, then subscribe. It's free, you can do it now. I'll wait, give you 3 seconds to subscribe. Okay, cool. I hope I made these books sound as intriguing as they actually are, and intriguing enough for you to want to pick them up. If you do pick any of them up, please let me know in the comments. Let me know if you've read any of them before and what your thoughts are. And with that, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'm gonna go sweat now because it is so hot here. But I will see you all, and hopefully not be sweating so much, in my next video, which will be next week. Bye.